Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Berardelli and Russ Gallo.
And you're now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Berardelli here with you. Thanks for tuning into the show, whether you're listening to us at www.behindenemylinesradio.us or if you're listening to us on any one of our rebroadcast outlets, glad you're with us on those, which we'll be giving a whole bunch of shout-outs to later, or if you're listening to us on podcasts on any number of podcasting platforms that are out there in the world. However you're listening to us, thank you for listening. Got a great show for you this week, talking about the birth of a new administration. Donald Trump, now our president, has taken the oath of office, hitting the ground running with a bunch of different policies and plans and meeting with a lot of great people. We'll be breaking a lot of it down in a few minutes. We're also going to be talking about how at least my social media has been absolutely lit up by liberals screaming at me about a whole bunch of different things, especially this kerfuffle about the inauguration and how many attended here. Can I get a head count? It's a lesson in absurdity, folks, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. We'll also be talking about protests and violence on the streets in the first hours of Trump's administration actually taking office. We got a lot to break down here, folks. It's going to be an interesting first 100 days for President Trump and our nation, and we're happy to look at it all. And listen, I promise you, I know that some of you who maybe listen to us for the first time, maybe on WLBB in Carrollton, Georgia, or WDDQ in Adel, Georgia, WJHC in Jasper, Florida, wherever you may be in the world. Some of you who know me, some of you don't, but let me just say this from the outset. I pledge, I can't speak for Russell Gallo, who my co-host, and shout out to Russell. We'll be getting him on in the coming weeks as soon as we get the show established here in our new digs, a.k.a. my new house. But here's what I'll say to you, everybody. Here's what I say to you. I promise to try to be as fair as possible to all of our listeners. If there's something that Donald Trump is doing that I love, I'm going to say I love it. If there's something that Donald Trump is doing that I disagree with, I'm going to say I disagree with it, and I'll give you reasons why. I'll always give you reasons why either way, no matter what. But let's set these ground rules at the onset here, folks, because there will be other people out there who will be loving every single thing that Donald Trump does. I'm looking right at you, Russell Gallo. They'll love every single thing that he does. I'm just kidding about Russell. Russell won't do that. At least I hope not. They'll say everything is rosy and wonderful, and they will justify every action, even if it is something that they totally, absolutely, 100% disagreed with, or if it was something, let's say, that a previous administration had done, but now that there's a Republican in power, they are going to let it go. I'm not going to do that. I don't plan on doing that. I'm going to call it as I see it. There are going to be times when you're going to be disagreeing. I'm my Italian. Disagreeing. You're going to be disagreeing with me about certain things that I say. I welcome you to comment at www.behindenemylinesradio.us or on our Facebook or Twitter at BEL_radio. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know what you think. I appreciate all the feedback you can give me. But let's set these ground rules up right now so that we understand exactly how things can be played around here. We're going to play it as we've always played it on this show, calling it as we see it. So let's start calling things out, and let's start seeing what we think about it. First thing that I want to talk about is the real first step in breaking away from the Obama administration and their policies that Donald Trump did of real substance, which is recommitting to the Keystone XL pipeline. For those of you who don't know what that is, it was a proposed pipeline that would take oil sands in places like Alberta and parts of Canada where they have this oil-rich sand that they can convert into oil and have it transported as far down as to our Gulf Stream region. So it is, I always thought, anyway, a beneficial project for this country because it would create jobs in the building of the pipeline. It would create jobs in the maintaining of the pipeline. And honestly, I thought it was something that was supported by both sides of the aisle. We shall see, because it's now back on the table after the Obama administration basically just took it off the table and decided unilaterally to not pursue it. Here's why this is so good. Like I said, first, it shows a clear break from the previous administration. It's a clear definition builder for Donald Trump. I am not my predecessor. He may have talked the talk before, but now he's walking the walk. Second, if this pipeline wasn't going to come to the United States, it was going west towards Asia. It was going to go underwater and to possibly China or other partners out there that could then get a competitive advantage in the energy field. Obviously, energy consumption is a very big issue here in our country, and we need all the resources we can get. This pipeline is not the end-all, be-all. Let's understand that. This pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline, they're not end-all, be-alls. They're not going to be game changers in our energy policy. They're not indispensable, but they help. They help in generating more jobs right now, where jobs are badly needed, and it helps with greater energy delivery in our country. That's just good policy right now. Donald Trump, I've heard people call this a layup for him. It definitely is one of these things where it's just a no-brainer decision. Unions should be happy because they're going to be union jobs are going to be created as a result of this project that's going to be undertaken. It's going to be a very large project going across many states. Our energy policy, this goes right into our energy policy and consumption. And you know what? It just makes sense to keep this advantage away from other foreign actors on the other side of the world. It's a no-brainer. This is a great idea. It's also great because Donald Trump has shown with this first step that he is not someone to be trifled with on the negotiation field either, in the negotiation side of politics. In the executive orders, Donald Trump has made certain things very clear. All executive orders are subject to favorable negotiations that are then signed off on later on. So the order itself is non-committal. And he actually made a point to say that he will insist, as one of the conditions in his negotiations, put it out front right now, that the pipes for the pipeline, the actual infrastructure, must be built in America, made in America. Geez Louise, what a concept! Having that at your outset in your negotiations is very important, I think. Russ Gallo talks about this all the time on the show when I actually had the technology to get him on. You start at a point that is most favorable to you, 100% favorable to you, and then you move towards the middle as much as possible. One of the biggest problems I always had with the Obama administration, or with even the House Republicans or whoever's in power, is they start at a midpoint in the negotiation, and then they moved, especially with the House Republicans under John Boehner, they started in the midpoint, and then they ended up further to the left than they really should have ever been. Donald Trump is setting up a clear goal. Pipes are made in the USA. Jobs created in the USA. Industry in the USA. It's part of making America great again, I guess, in his mind. And to me, that is a great first step. Another policy we could talk about that has been controversial is this defunding of international Planned Parenthood. For those of you not familiar with this, Donald Trump made it clear that no foreign money could go towards abortions coming from outside the country and It is a step that caused a whole hubbub on the left, especially the Planned Parenthood side of things. International Planned Parenthood loses funding as a result of this executive order. The executive order itself, when you hear about it, is not so darn controversial. Again, look at the details of what he said. What he is doing is basically reinstituting what's been known as the Mexico City policy, or the global gag rule is what it's called. It was first ushered in under President Reagan, and it barred federal funds from going to foreign organizations that perform abortions overseas or lobby for the practice's legalizations here. American taxpayer dollars, already under the Hyde Amendment, cannot go towards this, as you may have heard that talked about on the show before. But there was this loophole that was taken away and is just now reinstituted by Donald Trump. It's to me, it's a reinstitution of a conservative policy created by a conservative icon. And I think it just goes along with the idea that we've been talking about on the show, American values first. It goes along with Trump's theme. This is an American value. You already can't get federal money to fund abortions here. Why allow anything to happen overseas if it doesn't go along with this American ideal? And again, listen, I am not considering myself to be pro-life in any stretch of the imagination. I mean, in my personal life, I may be, but my outward position as a true conservative is that individuals should be allowed to make their own decisions. That being said, my taxpayer dollars shouldn't go to fund somebody else's life decision. At this point, I like what Donald Trump's doing. I see a lot of things that I think we can be encouraged about. I see a lot of things that we shouldn't be encouraged about, and we'll get into some of those later on as well. But honestly, folks, this is a good start. We're starting with the ground running. And we're starting with the ground running without a Secretary of State, without a UN ambassador, with Chuck Schumer and the deposed Democrats holding up the selection process of an incoming president in order to basically make him look bad. You hear I'm getting a little exasperated about it, but imagine if the tables were turned and this was a newly elected Democratic president, and that newly elected Democratic president picks their cabinet positions. What do you think would be the response? They would be up in arms. They'll be rioting in the streets. Well, there's always rioting in the streets when it comes to liberals and progressive policies. But what do you think would happen? Come on, folks. You know what? I am clearly getting exasperated because I really think that no one is giving Donald Trump a chance at this point to actually show what he can do in the Oval Office. We've seen what he can do on the campaign trail. We've heard what he said. Let's see what he can do now. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to get myself together here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the other side of politics, not so much the policy side, but the partisan side. We'll be talking about this whole kerfuffle I've been talking to you about with the inauguration and the numbers, and we'll be talking about protests and demonstrations and violence in the streets and all this stuff in the wake of the first couple of days here of the Obama administration. Listen to what I just said. Of the Trump administration. I got to get used to saying that. Gene Berardelli, Behind Enemy Lines. We'll be back right after these brief words. If you're a long-time listener of the show, or maybe this is your first time listening, you can probably tell that me and the gang here, we like to have our share of fun, whether it's on or off the air. We talk about 2-drink minimum radio and no medication Wednesdays or whatever day it may be. That's why when we found the people at Less Government, More Fun, we knew it was a match made in heaven with this show. Folks, we live in a time where government is out of hand. Our founding fathers did not intend government to be all-consuming in all parts of our lives. That's why we are telling you to go to lessgovmorefun.com, check out the website, check out the swag. What the people want is less government, more fun.